What's up, everybody? Breezy here. You already know what it is. We're back again. We're looking at GBPUSD. So today's topic is what is support and what is resistance, right? So let's jump straight to it. But before we do that, I just want to show you. You can go look at my two previous videos, GBPUSD breakdown part 1, and there's a part 2. You can go look it up. Hence we said last week that price was gonna retest and continue pushing to the downside. Hence y'all can see on the 1 hour time frame. That price did exactly what we said it would. We had that impulse whereby it was that correction, and now price is continuing with its previous trend, right? And again, if you pay close attention, and guys, I'm on the 1 hour time frame. If you pay close attention, that previous support we created last week and a couple weeks ago acts as a support now, right? So hence y'all can see that previous support is still active. Hence I'm saying support and resistance is always there. Just because you do not see it doesn't mean it's not there, right? You shouldn't trade just to make profits, but treat this as a business. You gotta have that ambition. But anyway, back to the market. Hence you can see we also created that resistance down there. And what do we expect? Our next move might be touching that resistance up there, or we might break this support down here, right? We might break this support. So there's really nothing complicated. So moving forward, in order to understand what is support, you should understand that support represents buy. I'm gonna say that again. You should understand that support represents buys. And remember, when it comes to buying, it means the market is bearish. Bearish means going to the upside. In other words, it's an uptrend, right? To approach support, you should think of it as a floor. Again, this is what I meant. The very same support we created right here, right? The very same support we created right here, right? So for you to understand support, treat it as a floor. Every time it gets hit, it rejects or it rebounds, right? Same thing goes with the resistance. So moving forward, a resistance represents sells. Again, I must show y'all. A resistance represents sells. The moment price starts rejecting and we push into the downside, creating lower lows and lower highs, that means we are in a bearish market. We're going down. If we're going up, we are in a bullish market, right? So moving forward, a resistance represents sells. Think of it as a selling. Every time price hits, it rejects or it rebounds, right? Always, right? And I'm gonna say that again. Always, resistance reject, support rebounds. So that's something you gotta keep in mind, guys. Okay. So moving forward, we have two types of support and resistance, right? We have a vertical support resistance. What is a vertical support resistance? I'm gonna show you. We have a vertical support resistance whereby let me look for a nice one. Okay, we have a vertical support resistance whereby we can use this previous data right here. This is what we call a vertical. This is what we call a vertical. This is what we call a vertical support resistance, right? Hence y'all can see that price rejected, started dropping, retest and continue to the downside, right? So, and number two, we also have a horizontal support resistance. In this case, this is what we on in this case. Hence, y'all can see we are in a bullish trend. Price is pushing up, right? So there you go. We have a vertical support resistance and we have a horizontal support resistance, So in other words, every time the market reaches this certain point whereby our support or our resistance, every time the market reaches this certain point, it always resists from going above every time. In other words, if price comes to a support and we reject not once but twice or even 3 times, already it's signaling to you that it doesn't have the strength to break. It's time to go to the downside, right? So before you enter a sell or a buy, you have to have more than one confirmation. In other words, you won't just take a trade because of you saw that price break your resistance. What would you do? In other words, let me do this so that everybody can see properly. You won't just take a trade because you think it's gonna go. No, this is not a mind game where you guess. This is a skill. So in other words, I'm going to repeat that. Before you enter a sell or a buy, you have to have more than one confirmation. So in other words, let's just say, let me do this. In other words, let's just say we wanted to enter this buy right here, right? And I wouldn't just enter the buy right here or anywhere else. Why? But first, I'd have to work on it, to see what I see, right? Let me remove that. That's my mistake. I also love using my Fibonacci. So I'm going to show y'all. So let's see. Okay, price started dropping there and then stretch it down to where it ended. Okay, hence y'all can see on my Fibonacci, guys, right? Hence y'all can see on my Fibonacci the 50 and the 61 zones, and looking back y'all can see that's where price started consolidating on the 61.8 zone, right? Yet we still break, but what happened? We had that strong engulfing candle. So in other words, we had a fake out to the downside before price pushed to the upside. So it's really nothing complicated, guys. You have to trade the markets for what they are, right? So this is all for today's topic. I'm gonna see you in my next video. Please like, subscribe, and share and comment. I love you all, and I hope everybody gets rich. Yes, sir.